Hi, it's Penny here, and as usual, I'm here to talk about some bookish things. Specifically, what I thought I'd do today is show you how I rate my books, which is going to involve showing you my spreadsheet all about how I track the books I'm reading. So I may as well show you the whole spreadsheet that I've started using recently. To be honest, I actually tried really hard to get into bullet journaling. I even bought this really beautiful bullet journal that G from Book Roast was talking about once, but I just really struggle with finding the time for bullet journaling, and I don't really enjoy like spending all that time making the page look pretty, and I always end up screwing it up, and then I feel like I've ruined everything. So what I found works way better for me is like digital bullet journaling, except like not the fancy digital bullet journaling that some people do. I just like having spreadsheets that track everything I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going to show it. I'm probably going to make me small. I'm going to make me small and you can see the spreadsheet. So this is the spreadsheet that I've been using. Basically, every month I will just make a new copy in here and then clear it all out and start again. Potentially I'm thinking about wrapping some stuff up, especially like my stats that I'm starting to put together, but at the moment we're just every month creating a new spreadsheet. This tab is the goals tab, which I have just deleted everything out of it at the moment because I'm completely unhappy with the way that I'm setting goals and displaying my goals. So that's a work in progress. But I also have a tab here for my TBR. So I primarily use this when I'm creating my TBR, especially as part of my TBR machine challenge, so that I know what books were library books and borrowed, and what challenges I got from the TBR machine and what books match those challenges. Also just so that it kind of adds up for me how many pages I have committed to reading, which is a stupidly large number. And I've also started listing all the audiobooks that I want to read and how many hours long those audiobooks are, so I can kind of work out how many hours I'm planning to listen to audiobooks. You know, just a casual 117 hours. But then I am also just kind of tracking using one of these little tick marks how many I've read and any that I've decided I'm not going to read after all. Then when it comes to filming my wrap up, I kind of know what I initially thought I would read, and then these ones under the line here are ones that I added after the fact. So then we've got this reading tracker tab. Basically this section here I just copy over into the reading tracker so that I know how many pages I have to read. And then every day I just take this much and copy it across and then update any numbers for the next day. I've got this cute little graph showing me how I'm doing. At the moment I'm doing okay. This dotted line is like, oh, I've broken something recently, haven't I? Yes, I have. This has been broken. How did that happen? Anyway, this dotted line is the ideal trend to finish everything by the end of the month, and you can see I'm under it at the moment, but only because I pulled the Dragon Republic out. I'm also tracking kind of my average pages per day, which at the moment is about 77, which just goes to show that my idea that I could read 100 pages a day easily is a lie. I don't do that at all. I have also recently just started tracking how many videos are in my watch later queue on BookTube. It's really been helping me to get it down. I mean, it's still kind of large at the moment, but it's stopping me from getting completely out of control, which is helpful. And giving me an idea of like how many videos I can actually watch in a day instead of trying to watch all of everyone's videos, because you cannot watch all of everyone's videos. There are so many booktubers, so many great booktubers, and while I would love to support them all, it's just not possible. So then we'll move on to the book reviewer tab. So this is what I created recently to try and get a little bit more consistent in my ratings for books, because I felt like sometimes I was giving things 2 stars and sometimes I was giving them 3 stars, even when they were about the same amount of goodness, and same with 3 and 4 stars and 5 stars, and I just honestly had no idea what I was doing. So I've created this spreadsheet, and I'm trying not, like, I know there's a million gazillion things I could be tracking, but I tried before to use the like book tracking spreadsheet of doom or whatever it's called, and there's just so many things on it, and every book you have to enter a million things, and it's just too much brain power, and I was always behind on entering the data into it. So this, I'm trying to keep it fairly simple. So I'm just keeping track of when I read it, the gender of the author, what the target demographic is, and then I've got my rating calculation. I'm also looking at where I got the book from, and if it was an audiobook, I'm also kind of rating how good it was as an audiobook. So then when it comes to creating my ratings, I'm trying to rate them on world building, whether the characters are any good. So it's primarily like, do I think they are well developed characters? It's kind of how likable they are, but if a character is really well developed, I'm willing to overlook if they're not very likable. Plot, is the plot like exciting? Does it make sense? All that kind of thing. The pacing, whether I felt like bits of it were really slow and boring. The writing style, just whether I thought the writing style was any good. These two are probably quite interrelated. At some point, I'll do some like crazy correlation stats and it'll be great fun. Also, whether I think the themes and ideas that the book investigates were interesting and whether the way those ideas were presented in the book were any good. And then finally, just kind of my enjoyment while I was reading the book. And then I kind of set this up, if you know about spreadsheets, as one of these filtery things, so I can just order it so the best ones come to the top and the least best ones go to the bottom. So I've already kind of entered in everything that I think I'm going to read this month, but it possibly might not be exactly what I read this month. We'll see. So far, the best book I've read this month was Nevernight, and the least best was Fairest by Marissa Meyer. I do have this little thing over here, scale over here, just to remind myself what the different numbers might mean, but to be honest, I don't look at that nearly as much as I should. Then I have also created this book stats tab. As I said, I'm not tracking very many things yet because I just know that if I try to track a lot of things, even though I would love to track everything and I know I would find the statistics really interesting, I'm just too lazy to track that many things, and if I try to do it, I'm going to end up tracking nothing. So basically, gender, so you can see this month, if I read everything I'm planning to, that we're about 50-50, about 4% of authors that are either both or neither, which is pretty good. I also have been kind of looking at, for each category, the average rating within that category, and it's interesting that I'm rating male authors higher. I think that's because I mostly only read male authors if I already know they're good, or I already have a strong reason to pick up that particular book, whereas I'm willing to give women writers the benefit of the doubt. Or it's more that I used to just naturally only read women writers, and it's only by being exposed to other people's reading that I've started picking up more men and making things a bit more balanced. Also, in terms of the demographic, you look over at the graph here, you can see I'm reading about 50% adult and then 40% young adult and about 10% middle grade. So I think that's an okay split. Possibly I want to read a little bit more adult, but I think it's okay. You can see that I have been reading young adult the highest. There's not much of a difference between adult and young adult at this point. I mean, it's very early in the month, so I haven't rated a lot of these books. So these stats will be more meaningful at the end of the month. At the moment, the distribution of star ratings is pretty even. I kind of feel like I give out 1 stars even less than 5 stars, so everything's always going to clump in the middle. I'd like to do something about that, but I don't really know what to do about that. And then in terms of format, I'm actually only reading like 4.3% of books off my TBR shelf, which is really not going to help me get that list down to a small number like I would like to. So I'm actually reading about 95% borrowed books, so 35% from the library, 35% audiobooks that are also from the library, and then 26% of my books have been borrowed from my family. That family number's particularly high this month because of all the Death Note books I've been reading. usually not that high. But you can see library books are the highest rated, and I think that's just because mostly I'm only putting holds at the moment on books that I'm really excited about reading. Audiobooks are the lowest rated. That's because I tend to pick books I'm not sure about up on audiobooks, so of course they're going to be the lowest. And then books from my family seem to be a little bit hit and miss as well, but I'm actually quite pleased that the books I've picked up from my TBR shelf have been okay, although you can actually see there's only one book so far this month, so these stats don't mean anything yet. We need more data. So that's pretty much how I track my reading and how I've been reading my books these last couple of months. I do actually think it's been leading to me getting more 2-star books, but I do particularly like that I can kind of look at the order of them and like make sure that it makes sense within that month. I do also have a few other tabs here about new releases and books I want to buy, some stuff I was doing about what's happening with my channel, do I want to change my name, and then just some little research I was doing about how many big booktubers there are out there. So that was fun. I like just doing this every month. If there's anything in particular I want to make a little spreadsheet for, I can do it, and then when I make the copy for the next month, I can get rid of those tabs and go back to just the main ones that I want to keep. I feel like having this kind of digital bullet journal for me is a lot less stressful because I know that I can just change things whenever I want. I don't have to worry about drawing a line in the wrong place or making something look ugly and then it's there forever. And of course it's really good for like graphs and numbers because it can add them up for me and draw the graphs for me, and I don't have to do most of the work. That's my favorite. But I do still definitely have to think about how I want to make this goals tab more pretty, because I would like to have some nice pretty goals written up. So that is how I have been tracking my books and how I've been reading my books lately. I know a lot of you out there have spreadsheets, so I'd love to hear any suggestions you have for things that might improve what I'm doing but without adding too much effort, because I'm lazy. Remember that I'm lazy when you're giving me ideas. Also, I'd like to know, in terms of my book reviewer, are there any different aspects that you think I should be considering when I'm rating my books? Because I pretty much just went with the ones that I thought of off the top of my head. I didn't do any research or particularly very much thinking in it. Again, I'm lazy. But I do think breaking it down has been helping me to put a bit more thought into my star ratings, and also help me when I look back on my ratings to understand why I rated books the way that I did. Anyway, let's chat down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.